Welcome back to VaderVision. We are continuing our journey for the VaderOG breeding selection round. On our last episode, we left off just going into flower. We had culled everything down quite a bit to our strongest females over here in our tester trays. Let them go for a few more days. Time-lapsed up, and now we are ready to tie them down. Got this Velcro tape that I love to use. Also, I do recycle it, so here's a big wad of it that we will end up using for recyclables. They generally last pretty long. Sometimes they can get a little sticky and you end up having to throw some away. But for the most part, never really have much of a problem and can use them over and over again. For this round with the Vaders, we did have a slight time difference in our first batch versus our second batch of popping, and there is a little bit of a mix of some females from our first batch and some from our second batch that are just a little bit shorter. The taller ones I'm going to go ahead and tie down right now, and then we'll come back in another week and give them a final strap down into the trellis. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and try and even them out across the trellis as much as possible so we can get a nice even canopy as they start to grow back up. And we do have some holes because we did cull a certain amount of them just to make sure we had the biggest, strongest, healthiest, and most vigorous girls. Everything is pretty monocrop for the most part with the Vader series, so not too much differentiation that we'll find with the later flowers once they start to really bloom. So I'm really here just keeping my eye out for structure, volume, and just overall health. Now that we've got everything laid down into the trellis, looking good. We should have a nice even canopy. Sure, we'll have a few shoots here and there that'll pop up and we'll eventually let them go. If we have a couple that go up even higher, or maybe some of these short ones like this one, since it's not getting strapped down right now, if it ends up leaning up a little bit much, we'll come in another week and give them a final strap down. Down below, you can see I didn't really trim up the bottoms. I like to see what the growth is like, even at that lower, less light level. So we're gonna just let them go. Not gonna give them too much training down below. Over here with our males, they're just about to start popping open, so I'm going to have to seal up this chamber, but we'll dive in one last time, take a look at them. Looking at really healthy. These are our healthiest, strongest males. Looking really nice. They're just about to start opening up, so we want to get them locked down so they don't affect the females in the outside test tray. Now the males take a little while to develop. They're going to go through a couple of phases at the beginning, just like with the females. They'll get into that week 3 and 4. They'll start packing up, they'll start opening up, but they'll have a second and third volume growth where they start packing on more sacks. So that's what we're really looking for a little bit later. Also, since we don't have one single male and we're not pulling them up to kill them off, I'm going to replace this door with a windowed door since I got another one. That way we can get a nice view angle all the way through. Breeding chamber looking good. Just had an extra chamber over here on the side, so I threw some breeds in here just to keep up on some stock. Got some Jawa pie in here, so we got a Jawa pie male, key lime pie, and some extra little goodies for fun. Male's a little bit smaller, but I'm not worried about him. He'll get enough light, he'll bloom, he'll seed all the females, and all the females can grow on up. They're actually a little taller than normal, so hopefully they won't get too tall for the light, but I'm sure it'll be just fine. And if they start to lean over just a little bit when they get heavy, should put them right into the right place for getting the perfect amount of light. That chamber is all sealed up, so it's ready to go. Topping off all the reservoirs as we always do. This reservoir is about half full. Got an EC about 0.8, so I'm just going to overshoot it since we're going into flower and look for an EC just above 1.4, so I'll give them about 200 milliliters of their can of cocoa A and B. Probably 150 milliliters of Canazyme and 100 milliliters of Rhizotonic. And we'll give them a nice full set of boost as we going into flowering here. So this is our first time putting the boost in for our test trays. So we're going to give them a full 400 milliliters per 40-gallon reservoir. And now they have their sweeteners and they are ready to rock. So here we're just going to time lapse right through. Beautiful view, seeing them reach back up towards the light as they grow back up from being strapped down. And the little bits of jump we see now that we're in flowering, this is during the night cycle. So that jump up that you see right there, that's when the lights are off. And they actually do grow up and stretch during the night. So for those that do believe or are under the impression that the Plants don't grow during the nights, just like with these males. This bump up jump is the dark period. There you go. And that is where they're stretching up during the night. But we don't want to put any green lights on or film them here because I don't want to affect their light cycles and mess with their hormones. So we're just going to keep it nice and simple. Males coming right along. We've got the chamber strapped down, starting to fill out, keeping my eye on them, looking for the big, healthy ones. Basically over here on the left, the back corner one looks really nice. The middle one looks really nice. They're definitely stretching up. Males have a tendency to stretch in flower and get pretty spacey between the nodes. Unlike the females, generally slow down a little bit, especially if you stack them, train them. Utilizing stripping techniques, not something you generally do with the males, since you lock up the chambers anyways. Floating right through our flowering cycle with some more time lapse. Looks like they're starting to slow down their stretch just a little bit, so I think now is a good time to kind of get in there and try and even out the canopy a little bit more. We'll leave the ones in the outer parts a little bit taller, but the stuff that's directly under the lights will definitely start pulling down as one last strap down. Flowers are just about to start blooming, so now's about the time, if in your nutrient regime you were to hit them with a little bit extra potassium phosphorus, just like in the Canna program with our PK1314, this would be about the time that I would start initiating that in. Sometimes go a little heavy with it, has a tendency to burn the leaves, so I'm pretty light with my PK1314. So I generally don't overdo it too much, especially with the females and the flowers. But when we're doing the breed rooms, like that last breed room right there, give them a healthy dose and really set them up for some good seed production. Vader males looking nice and healthy. We are at a solid 3 weeks of flower since we've initiated our 11 hours of light and 13 hours of darkness. Just starting to open up on some of their flowers and drop pollen. And they'll definitely be stacking up over the next couple of weeks. So I'll be keeping my eye on those ones on the left and one on the right that's directly in the middle as well. Those are my 3 males that I'm really looking at. And looks like we're just about to start getting some of that frost coming in for the boys as well. Back over to our tester and selection trays. We got this plant up front I'm really looking at. It's got a really nice smell right from the get-go. I mean, everything is pretty strong and again going to be pretty similar, but that one's looking super healthy and the flower development is coming along really nicely. One in the back left corner as well, and then the back right corner is looking fantastic. Got 2, like this one kind of in this upper coming over to the right now, that's a little lighter green, so that's a good example of one that I'll just exclude from my selection process, along with one in the left hand tray that's up near the front. Pulling these ones in the middle though down, give them a nice little strap down, and we should end up finishing off with a pretty even canopy, and we'll get some of those side lower nodes to flower on up as well and bulk up, and this will help with getting a little extra weight. We can see right there on the left that one that looks kind of yellow. It looks worse in the camera white balance than by eye in person, but definitely another phenotype that just going to get excluded from the selection process there. Even if it bounces back with its nutrients, just something I don't want to work for. So I'm looking for those really strong, healthy females that we don't have any issues with. All right, well, at this point, we pretty much made it about halfway through our flowering cycle. We'll be returning next week to dive deeper into the later parts of our flowering cycle, and we should have some beautiful flower shots, always the exciting, fun time when it comes to the grows. And we should also be able to get a good look at our potential males before we go ahead and nuke their chamber down as well. All right, well, thanks for joining me this week. If you want to help support the channel, make sure to slam that like button, leave a comment, even if it's just aloha. Your support goes a long way to helping the channel grow. I'll be back again soon enough. So until next time, I'm Vader, and I'll see you later.